Hello. How you doing today? I asked how you were doing today.
Oh, I didn't hear you. I just turned on audio. I'm
Yeah,
good.
I saw
How are
it.
you?
I'm doing okay. Had a few setbacks, got animals loose, and I was running around all day trying to catch them.
Oops. That's always fun.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of things went wrong. My dishwasher stopped working. My brand new refrigerator isn't working right, just freezing everything.
Yay.
And the movers messed up and dented everything and broke stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
You should probably just go to bed.
Oh, I tried that, but then my mind started working and I got hungry and I couldn't sleep all night.
Yay. Oh.
I guess I'm real early.
Yeah, we're both early. It's 7 minutes to go, but it's being recorded right now, so I'm gonna get up and walk out for a little bit.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
You been working
I am. I'm working quite a bit.
in landscaping?
No, I'm working for the census.
Oh, how cool.
Um, Hi, Dave.
Hi,
Hello, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Hello, Julie.
Hi there. Okay. I'm playing around because our last meeting I wasn't able to see a lot of people. Okay, so if I leave the panelists like that, okay. Okay. Do I have the ability to mute attendees, Maureen?
No,
Are you the only one that has the ability to mute?
I am.
What I'd like to do is start off with, we'll leave everybody on, but as we begin the meeting, I would like to mute everybody, and then as I call on them, would you be willing to unmute them for me?
Yeah, or they can unmute themselves.
Okay, cool, great,
If I mute them, they can still unmute themselves.
okay.
So,
Okay, all right.
Sonia's here.
Hi.
Hi, Sonia.
hi.
So, and there's Carson.
So what I would recommend is everybody mute yourselves right now. And then when you're called, unmute yourselves.
Okay, I will ask that request. I will make that request. So Carson, I pulled out an old Inglewood Citizen magazine because I was trying to find an article and came across when you ran for council, and the article was on you. Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh, do you hear me now?
Yeah, perfectly.
Sorry, I've got some issue with my camera trying to get it on. That's funny. Yeah. So which one? Where it was like the intros for each of the people going for? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that was actually an interesting experience.
Monica, will you please mute yourself, and then when you're called on or you have a question, you can unmute?
Rita, excuse me, Rita is not going to join us right away. She may not be able to join us at all, but she will if she can. So I think we've got everybody here at this point. Great. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Code Enforcement Advisory Committee on September 16th, 2020. Let's go around and do a roll call, please. I'll start. Julie Bowden, Chair.
Sonia Strom.
Monica Johnson.
Cian Dickerson.
Carson.
Cara Franchiani.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I want to do things a little bit differently today in terms of raising hands and giving everyone a chance to speak. So I'm requesting that everyone mute themselves, and then when I call on you, you can unmute yourself. So if we can please try and do that, I want to make sure that everybody on the committee has a chance to provide input and is heard. Second item on the agenda is consideration of minutes from our prior meeting in August. Would someone please move to approve?
I move to approve.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any discussions or corrections? Hearing none, then I will ask for a show of hands on approving the minutes as distributed. Please raise your hand for aye. Approving the minutes, and the minutes are approved as distributed. Thank you. The second item is our public forum. Our third item is our public forum. Maureen, do we have any visitors?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. So we will move on to code enforcement significant events with Supervisor Lewis. Please, Dave, go ahead.
Hey, good evening, y'all. It's good to see you. So I wanted to give you a quick update about the statistics that you've all received. As you can see, we've had a tremendous increase in the number of weed complaints or cases that we've opened. And I really want to attribute this to our seasonal code enforcement officer. This so far has been a very successful program. And I sent some statistics over to the city manager today that I wanted to share to you. And these are year to date as of this afternoon. So far, the seasonal code enforcement officer has inspected roughly 6,500 residential properties and alleyways within the city of Inglewood. We have 9,277 residential properties located here in the city. So that's roughly 70% of the city residential areas have been inspected by this officer. We found that just over 1,000 notices of violation were issued. So approximately just under 12% of the properties inspected were in violation of grass and weeds and or a right-of-way obstruction in the alleyway. And so notices were issued. These are very sternly worded warning letters that are provided to citizens. These do not have any type of follow-up inspections. Unless the district officer sees when they're out on inspections, then they will continue the enforcement process. We have, again, found close to 97% compliance rate with our notices, which is tremendous for the size and the number of inspections that we're doing. So I believe that's still in the budget for next year, and we'll re-explore having a seasonal code enforcement officer next summer, just because it has been successful. We expect this program to end within October, meaning that all residential properties have been inspected and all major thoroughfares within business zones have also been inspected by the end of October. So that's a tremendous accomplishment. I'm very proud that we went forward with this program and that it has shown success within our area. Secondly, you'll see in the statistics the additional trend like we've been talking about with outdoor storage, specifically with trash and litter. You'll notice we had 129 open cases this last month. That's double what we've had in the last 2 years. Again, like I said, when we have spoken to or people have called about the notices that they've received, a lot of them are saying they just can't afford their trash service right now. They're having to make tough choices between putting food on their table, paying their utility bills, or paying for their trash service. So they're really having to pick and choose right now. We're also seeing that people are trying to dispose of trash in improper ways. We've seen an increase in burning of trash complaints. We've seen an increase in illegal dumping, people taking their trash to dumpsters that are not owned by them or owned by the city, or even dumping them in parks. So this is a concerning trend that I hope may be alleviated soon. This issue is also very taxing on us in code enforcement. Not just from the standpoint of the violation, but I think we are taking a holistic approach to these violations. And when we are hearing people that are in distress, we are trying to provide some resources to them. So when they're saying they're having to make choices about paying their utilities, we're referring them to specific programs that are available to help offset those costs that they can apply for through Excel and through public energy assistance. We are trying to let people know that they do. A couple of the concerns that we've received is they haven't received stimulus checks, or they haven't been able to receive their unemployment. We have opened our facility and personally my laptop in a secure way to citizens who need to file for unemployment because they don't have access to a computer, or we're referring them to centers where they can get that research. So we're really trying to support our community, not just from the standpoint of code enforcement issuing violations, but we really are sensitive to taking that holistic approach, whether it's a hoarder and we're needing to provide mental health services to them. We do have the all health mental health co-responders that are going on calls for service when we need them. We continue to access our victim advocate when we do have concerns about some of these animal bite cases when victims are involved. So I just want all of you to know that it's not just we're here, we're seeing a violation, but we are trying to problem solve and trying to take the obstacle out of the way for some of our citizens. I think that's all I have for statistic-wise.
Julie, Carson has his hand up.
Thank you. I was trying to unmute myself. That's really good information to hear, Dave, about the extra services that you're providing the community in times like today. And then certainly the alley and weed maintenance statistics are really impressive. Nice job. So Carson, please unmute yourself.
Thanks. So Mr. Lewis, yeah, that's really hard, and I'm glad that you're being compassionate, and I'm sure it's yeah. So is the main time when people are expressing like the monetary issues, is that are those all or is that primarily incidents where they have like what, trash like piled up at some point on their property, or when you're catching them trying to dispose of trash somewhere else, or how do those go down?
It's primarily when we're seeing an accumulation of trash and behind someone's house in their alleyway or in their front drive. We've also seen a couple of instances where people are piling the trash up in the back of their pickup truck, hoping to find a way to dispose of it or take it away, rather than having the paid service that's required on a weekly basis. The only way that we're finding this information out is when people reach out to us to let us know they're struggling, this is why they're having this violation, how can we work it out? This is self-reported, it's not stuff that we're actively seeking. It's when people call us. And we hear this frequently when it comes to violations. You know, we're really trying to be compassionate when we hear somebody can't cut their weeds, they've had surgery. We're really trying to let them know to maybe speak to their neighbors, or if I know somebody that's in the area that can help them, we'll try and let that neighbor know, hey, this person's really struggling, you may want to talk to them. It just emphasizes that we do have a lack of overall resources as a community, and really trying to connect neighbors with neighbors for when they're struggling. I think we've gotten away, like I said from the beginning, it just takes neighbors talking to neighbors, and a lot of times people don't even talk to their neighbors anymore. So reconnecting and reestablishing some of those bonds is something that's very vital and really important as we move forward here as a community and our sense of identity. I do have one more thing I forgot to bring up once we're done talking about statistics that I think you guys will be very interested in hearing about.
Okay, Carson?
It's still on the trash thing. Thanks, that helps. Are there any, like you mentioned, resources for people who can't afford their utilities? Is there anything you can point them to? For if they,
For trash, I don't believe any of the services currently have that. The Energy Assistance Program is not really funded through Excel. It's a program that's established through the federal government and local charities. We also let them know that if they do have strong faith beliefs, please reach out to their faith-based communities, because a lot of them do have a little bit of extra funding to help cover a bill for a month. Or I know Catholic Charities is very big. There's several Jewish community organizations that are very big. I just don't have a full list right now, and it really is based off of the facility or the organization that you are a member of.
Just one more thing on there. Do you have a sense of the 129 trash and litter? Is that where all of the situations of someone not being able to afford trash service, is that where those all hit, is trash and litter?
Typically, we'll also see additional violations. We open a case based off of the primary or the original complaint, but we'll frequently also find that they may have some outdoor storage concerns, and that isn't reflected on here. They may have disposed of a couch, or they have indoor furniture outside. So we're also seeing secondary violations, but the primary violation why we're there is either a complaint or we've observed trash piling up in some way.
Thank you very much.
Are there further questions for Supervisor Lewis? Colleen?
I think I've unmuted. Am I unmuted?
You are.
Okay. Yeah, I had a couple of questions just so I could figure this out. And I'll just make a comment. Have you seen voluntary compliance on a lot of this weed stuff? Because Sunday and Friday, I was traveling around and there was a lot of weeds that were like 2 or 3 feet high along Oxford, and the alley was choked, and also on Dartmouth. So I'm just wondering how long it takes to get this, get that taken care of.
Well, typically they have 21 days, Colleen. So within that time frame, it could be a month. We haven't done the major thoroughfares. I think that was one of the comments that I made. So Oxford, Dartmouth, Broadway, those are going to probably be towards the middle of October. We have issued a few sporadic inspections along Oxford or Dartmouth based off of individual complaints. And we did do a mass sweep at the beginning of the weed season of Broadway, Oxford, and Dartmouth. But as you know, it may have been one violation, they may have been notified, and we have grown back. So it's a revolving door. And we typically find the same people that come in, that go in and out of compliance within 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. Can I follow up with a couple of other questions that I just have concerns over? What codes are you using for property maintenance? I'm not familiar with that category.
So property maintenance is a catch-all, and we've discussed this previously. That is a zoning, Title 16, where we're providing some type of support to the community development team.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. So that would be Airbnb issues also?
Correct.
You
And
do
that does not primarily fall to us. That is a zoning matter.
Okay, and just so I know, under inoperable vehicle and abandoned vehicle and parking, how many of those are off-street issues like Title 15?
These are all on-street parking violations.
So they're all
Abandoned
on-street.
vehicle. Yep, the one abandoned vehicle that we had, we just happened to see that when we were at a specific property that had other violations, and this was out front with no license plates and flat tires. And then specifically with parking, those all are parking violations, expired plates, outdoor storage issues, specifically that fall to parking or model traffic code.
One follow-up question. Do you keep a log of the summons and complaints you write? So do you know
That's
how
not
many
our
you write?
No, that's not a responsibility. That's the courts. I think we discussed that last week.
Well, yeah, but I would assume that you would know whether you filed them or not, whether you wrote them.
Yeah, we don't keep that information any longer. The program doesn't allow us to do that. It's all managed through records and through the courts.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Supervisor Lewis? Okay, seeing none, we will move forward. Thank you very much, Dave.
I have one more.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Sorry, I forgot about that. Yep.
So as we've moved forward in discussing the holistic approach that the city is taking to violations, there are quite a few challenges that occur between neighbors or neighborhoods that may not be a code enforcement issue or a police matter. They really fall to civil or just being good neighbors. I'm really excited to announce that the city has signed a contract with a mediator service. This service is, we've already sent referrals to them. It is free of charge to the citizens of Inglewood. We are providing mediator services that are to those neighbors who just can't get along. This service has had a 72% compliance rate with neighbors coming together to have tough dialogues and really trying to communicate better, because it all stems from lack of communication or proper communication. And so we are going to continue, the police department, the courts, and code enforcement will continue to provide these referrals for the mediation service. It's been very successful in Littleton, in Aurora, in Boulder, in Longmont. And so we felt that this was going to be a better opportunity, instead of having the Hatfields and McCoys of Inglewood, that we are going to refer some of these people to mediation services.
Wow,
Cool, thank
that's
you.
great. That is great. So you get into the mediation program by interacting with the courts or with code enforcement or police. You guys provide those referrals. Are you going to communicate to the city residents that that service is available?
I believe a formal announcement will be coming out shortly. This is something that's just been established within the last 2 weeks, and we've just started the referral process. But it does need to be referred. Currently, the way that we're discussing it is it's being referred by a city employee, so that we're able to track the services that are being provided and the amounts that that are being spent or allocated by the city.
Wow, that's great. Any further questions for Supervisor Lewis? Thank you very much, Dave. The next agenda item is an update from our City Council representative, Rita Russell, and she's unable to attend. She might join us a little bit later on, but we'll just move forward. I don't have an update from her. Agenda item number 6 is a subcommittee on communications. Monica?
All right, update on the subcommittee for communications. So last Friday, I met with Julie and Chris Harguth to kind of get up to speed on how the whole process works. And it was a really productive meeting, and I'm excited for us to get started on this with Cara Franchipani's help. Some major takeaways are that one opportunity that we can take advantage of is to streamline our editorial calendar and do that through the city instead of just operating on our own schedule. We talked about increasing our presence on social media and planning those out for the entire year so we can kind of take care of more topics instead of just focusing on those 4 articles that go in the magazine. And let's see what else. And also another tool that we're going to hopefully start using here is using the city's copywriter to create our articles, so we can really focus on setting the agenda and getting and going through the material to make sure we're presenting things in a factual manner. And so with that said, I'd love to have our committee generate a list of topics, large and small, that we can present throughout the year. And what will hopefully happen is I can take that material and work with Chris's team to get them on a schedule for the year and bring that back to you to say these are the topics that are going to go in the articles according to what we've prioritized, and these are the items that might be on a short 30-second video that might go on Facebook or Nextdoor or Instagram, et cetera, but to get it all planned out and coordinated with the city so that we don't have to worry about, you know, doing it as we go. So that's kind of the long and short of it. Julie, do you have anything to?
No, I was really excited to hear that there are more formalizing code communications into their plans, which up to this point, it's just been us doing it. And then, so I'm really excited about that. And then also the social media component. There's an opportunity to do videos, and a lot of our topics are video worthy and can be very interesting. So it was a really productive conversation, and I think you're actually going to be going to their meetings, aren't you, Monica?
Well, I am going to get on their calendar for next month to meet with the staff and kind of lay the groundwork for this. And it would be really nice if I could come to them with a list of topics. So, and I was really excited about the fact that they have a former news anchor on their staff that wants to produce these 30-second segments. And like, we can do man on the street, like interviews about the Emerald Ash Borer and get the arborists in there. I mean, I think it's just such a great way to communicate. And I think the articles in the magazine are really nice, but you know, wouldn't it be nice if we could put something out there that people really want to click on, and look into other ways that code enforcement can communicate timely topics, everything from, Cara and I were discussing mailers, postcards, you know, and then with social media. I feel like there's so much that we need to cover, and, you know, we need to plan it out and get after it. So I'm really excited about that. And then the last thing, and oh, I'm excited you're ready to join in, Colleen. But the last thing I wanted to mention is, aside from like generating that list, our next priority while we lay the groundwork for next year is getting that next article ready. So I do have a proposal for that, if you're all interested in hearing that right now. Would that be okay?
Yeah, so if I can clarify, so you're wanting to do two things. We're wanting to generate priorities for article content for 2021.
Yes.
And then we have winter 2021. I can't believe we're even using that phrase. That article is due, and so we got to decide on that topic also. Which would you like to cover first?
Well, why don't we let Colleen chime in here, and then what you can think about that. I mean, I think the article is the next thing we have control over that we need to decide. And the rest is kind of bigger picture, laying the groundwork for next year. I just kind of wanted to let you know what we're going to be working on, and that your input is needed. If we have time to work on that now, great. If not, maybe just come up with an idea for the next article or start that process. So.
Colleen?
Yeah, the winter 2021, that's not coming out until January. Is that what you're saying? Okay. Well, we've always tried to do the seasonal stuff, and our winter is kind of weird, as we learned last year. So we did snow and ice, and then we did snow and ice and weeds, because we had so much in the spring article that we still had snow and ice. So we've been trying to be seasonal. Do we want to continue that? I would say yes, because the snow and ice thing is particularly a problem. And then in the springtime, you don't know whether you're dealing with weeds or you're dealing with snow and ice again. So if we could get 2 articles in the winter issue and the spring issue of 2021, and concentrate on the snow and ice and the snow and ice and weeds issue, but also bring in, Like we've never done the parking issue on property. And there are some things in Title 15 that talk about what we can have on property as far as parking and inoperable vehicles. And that was cut from the article we did on parking on street. But that's our main issue is Title 15. So we've got some other issues we can put in with it, but I think we need to continue with the seasonal topics and try to get another article to talk about also. So 2 articles for both winter and spring if we can manage it.
Okay. I'm happy to inquire about that, but what's exciting about having these other avenues to get information out is that we don't have to pile it all into the magazine if we're doing reliable monthly communications via social media and putting out maybe our own, I propose we do a seasonal, some type of seasonal mailer that people without internet might get, or even an optional newsletter. I mean, there's lots of ways to skin that cat. So, but I think above that, getting that list of topics, and they naturally have a time when they're applicable. So no matter how we get those out, as long as we do it in that season in a timely manner, I think that's what matters. And if it can be 2 articles and that's a go, then that would be great.
I agree.
Okay.
Monica, do you want me to pull up what we've done the past 2 years so people can see what topics we've covered? We've got that in that PowerPoint.
Yeah, sure. If you would like to do that. And I really like the second slide. I think it is where you communicate the purpose of it, which where I wrote it down. Oh, to increase voluntary compliance, to educate business and residents, and to seek feedback from the community. And if you follow those simple principles, there's a lot of ideas that can come from that. Everything from surveys and flyers and just all of the different ways you can communicate kind of emanate from those. And actually, I would, well, if you want to go to the next slide, Julie, it talks about what the major violations are. So what the city ends up working on, which is important for the community to know. And then what their new enforcement plans are, like, communicating maybe that we were going to get that extra officer focusing on the alleys and weeds. I think that's really important for the community to know, as well as like the accomplishments and brags about ways that the Code Enforcement Committee has improved the community. And things like how well the city complies when they are notified by code enforcement. I thought that was really nice to hear. I think the city should get a pat on the back for being active. So, and then if you go to the next one, those were the topics that you guys covered in 2020. And I mean, which are all the big ones: property maintenance, snow removal, having that snow ordinance change. And then it seems like dead trees are a big issue, as well as emerald ash borer, and then alleys, which we just talked about. So these are going to continue to be issues, and most of them are seasonal. So it kind of naturally falls into place when you would do them, as you can see on the chart. And then what's
you
your
can
last?
see, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Question. So you can see, we had always intended to do the social media portion, but it just never really took off because they asked us to provide that, and it just was too much. So we never got to it. So it's really exciting to hear that they're engaging with us, because now we can add to just the printed article and we can incorporate the social media component of it. So did Dave say anything about having articles on our website, on the city website? Or,
You mean Chris?
sorry, yes, I meant Chris. Thank you.
You know, I don't recall talking about the website other than the fact that it was going on, having an overhaul.
Oh,
And
that's right.
so perhaps once that is overhauled and has a better design, that could be an option.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm hoping to be in touch with them on the regular so that those things can become available. I mean, a banner ad on the website when it's time for something important would be wonderful. So, yeah.
Are there any, so do you want to talk about the winter article first and then talk about other topics for 2021?
Sure. I'll just throw out what the an idea for the article and take anybody else's ideas. And then, yeah, if you want to designate some time to just come up with a few ideas, or if people want to just send them offline, if that's okay, we can do that also. But for the January article, we were thinking of kind of getting back to basics since we're starting this project over and getting streamlined with the city. Kind of start at the beginning and just do an informational article that actually focuses on what we just talked about. What does code enforcement do? Why are they an important partner of our city? And how do they work in a very basic way so people can understand? And then maybe throw in a graph there with the statistics and trends with a year-to-date statistics from 2020 to let people know what the issues are in the city. And then maybe something like Colleen said with the seasonal concerns, like here's what's of most importance right now for citizens to be in compliance with the code. So that's the idea, just to keep it simple, start fresh. It's January. So yeah.
Colleen?
Are we going to be able to get, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. Are we going to be able to get a full page? Because an info article like that is going to take a full page, even if we're real careful how we phrase it.
I'm not sure about that. I thought I would come up with a topic and then ask based on what we think our need will be. So.
I wanted to ask Dave. Dave, I recall when I first moved here, there was an article on you and code enforcement, and I went through my back issues and I could not find it. Do you remember that? I
Don't recall.
Okay, maybe I dreamt it. I don't know. I'm pretty sure I thought because I thought I remembered seeing something and I couldn't find it. So okay, I thought I'd check. Any other questions for Monica or thoughts, Carson?
It's actually both Monica and Supervisor Lewis. When my understanding is there's going to be a changeover of system for code enforcement tracking. Is that also going to affect the public interface with how to report and follow up with code enforcement, reports? And would that be something that we would be ready to be able to document and include in that informational article?
So we had a meeting today. We are going live at the end of October with our new reporting management system. So things are going to be very different. It is also going to allow us to be mobile, as we will have mobile computers to utilize when we're in the field. We are integrated with the police system, so I don't know how I'm going to be able to present or provide statistical information after October 28th. That is something that is probably going to be delayed And it's probably something I may not have an answer to or get to you until the first of the year, only because we're learning the new systems. We're learning how to even put in the information. How to get the information out is going to be a new portion.
What about from the aspect of like public reporting things? Will there be a change to interface there?
No, the public will still be able to file a concern through on our website. We call it the Q Alert system. I know I've recognized several of your names who have used it, and it's actually my favorite tool and probably the best for citizens in receiving the information and then being acknowledged that their complaint has been received. They can still use the inspection line. They can call the police for emergency matters. They can email. There's a direct email address. So the way somebody's going to report something is not going to change. The way that the information will be given back to citizens should they do a request for a report will look different.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just thinking that might be, I didn't know if the timing would be right, Member Johnson, to include any changes, or maybe for citizens it won't actually change that much, except for the ultimate later reporting not being known right away.
Right. Well, and also, I don't know, Officer Lewis, I think it's kind of important that I don't know if people realize you're a branch of law enforcement. Maybe that's something we can communicate that you work on a team, and that some of the things that you deal with actually can end up being criminal offenses, if I'm correct.
You are correct. Any of these violations, if you get summoned into court, will wind up on your criminal record as a municipal violation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, I highlight the positive, like you're doing great things in the community, and our community is great at complying when they're communicated with. However, if you choose not to, there's consequences for that.
Yeah, this is, again, just like getting a speeding ticket or any other municipal ticket, petty offense for stealing under $100, these go on your criminal record.
Wow. So, well, again, that's, I think kind of outlining what you do annually, why you're important, why this, code enforcement, what code enforcement does for a city, and why you should care as a citizen is important. And I think that now that we're going to be thinking, hopefully, and acting on these different strategies to communicate, we'll have more options or more opportunities to cover these things. And I think the magazine's a great place to just, lay out some basic things and maybe highlight some positives. I don't know.
Colleen?
Yeah, what's the deadline date for the winter article?
I haven't received it yet. And once I get like in communication with Chris Hargrove's team, they're going to send them directly to me. So we'll be able to be on top of it without, having to seek out that information. So that'll be nice. So hopefully next month, once I go to their meeting, I'll know that for the whole year is what I'm saying. So.
I had a question. We've asked, in the past, we've asked code enforcement what their priorities and initiatives are for the coming year. Dave, do you have anything to share with us at this point? Have you worked on priorities for 21 yet?
We have not set our priorities. This year has just been so odd.
Yeah.
And the trends that we're seeing this year are not the same trends that we've seen in past years. And so code enforcement, not just in our city, but throughout the country and the state, is really having to adjust and reevaluate how we're responding. A lot of organizations also are a part of the police department. So as you know, we're currently evaluating and redoing a lot of the policies and the way that we respond to certain activities. So the entire face of code enforcement in the police department in some ways is really going to look different probably after the first of the year and how we handle things.
From a code perspective, I recall last year, there were a couple of things. We talked about the top code violations, but there were a couple of things that you all had worked on in terms of, or you were talking about doing, was new resident communication, and then, you know, proactive enforcement of select codes in line with communications. And that we actually did that this year. So is there any codes that you think you'll be focusing on next year, or any areas that you think are a particular issue that need to be addressed that we should communicate?
So I don't want to beat the dead thing to death, but the topic that we are hearing the most concern and passionate about is regards to animals. So we are always, that's always a #1 issue, and we're going to continue to move forward with enforcement of our park rules. Hopefully the park ranger, if you haven't heard, moves forward in the budget. As of right now, it's still in the budget to have at least one park ranger. It will be assigned to the police department. They will be sworn in as a code officer with limited enforcement abilities. Again, that is not finalized in the budget, but it is one of the components that's moving forward. Hopefully that will alleviate and allow us to focus on other aspects. Trash and litter is still a concern of ours, and I don't think education is necessarily, people know you can't have trash and litter. I don't think it's a trend that we're seeing, but it's not a huge problem that we're seeing. I think maybe communicating, a lot of people still think code enforcement is this secret hidden world, and they don't understand quite what we do or what our responsibilities are, and how to communicate with us properly, and what our role is. Like I explained last week with, we have to protect your constitutional rights as as somebody that has committed a crime. So, and people understanding that it's not just a weeds violation. It's not just a barking dog. It's not just an off-leash violation. It has some potential consequences, and this is why we take it so serious when we do the enforcement component.
Thank you. So Monica, do you have what you need to move forward? I mean,
yeah, I mean, unless, yeah, I mean, if is everybody okay with that topic for
why don't
January?
we reach consensus on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think
it's-
Officer Lewis just kind of said the same thing, like knowing understanding who code enforcement is and what their role in the community is, making that the topic, but then adding in the seasonal component as well. Can everyone get on board with that for our next article? Can we? Sorry.
Sonia? Can you unmute yourself?
There we go. Yes, that sounds great. That sounds like it'll really work out. I was just thinking about the trash again, because that seems to be a problem. I know that we have like a hazardous waste drop-off dates coming up. I wondered if waste management could do like a trash dump-off day, because I remember when I was a kid growing up around here, there was a local dump, and everyone who couldn't afford the trash man filled up their pickup once, like bi-weekly, well, once in a while, and everybody went to the dump, and it was a flat rate. And is there any way that we could maybe do something like that with waste management? So people who are filling up their pickup trucks or wants a cheaper place to drop off their trash, I wonder if that's something that we could look into.
Colleen?
Yeah, I've been looking into that. There was a time where you could just go straight to waste management and put stuff in, but they've stopped that. But there are dump places available. It's not very cheap anymore. I think there's a flat rate of like $50 per pickup load, no matter what the size of your pickup truck is. But it is available, particularly for, and there's one that's specially for trees and leaves and yard waste. But it's kind of expensive also. Because of COVID, I can no longer go up to the Louisiana and Bannock site for recycling. They're not taking anything right now. But that was a $2 fee, and I could dump all my glass and paper and whatever there.
Carson?
Well, first, to respond to Member Johnson, sorry, am I echoing? Is it still
No, you're
doing it? Okay. I think that's great. I like the idea of reset and document the whole process, explain code enforcement. I think we can't go wrong with that. And then in regard to Member Strom that's really interesting. I had never heard about that it used to be that way, that people had the option periodically to was that fairly common that some people would do that, take their trash on a weekly or bi-weekly basis themselves?
No, you muted yourself. You were unmuted. There you go.
Here we go. Yes, it was. It was right after the early 60s, because they people weren't allowed to use their incinerators in their backyards anymore, because people used to always burn their trash.
That makes sense.
After that, through the late 60s, 70s, and early 80s, everybody, if you couldn't afford the trash man, you just went to the dump once a week, twice a week, monthly, and you just went up there and dropped it off. And it was like a flat fee, and that's what people used to do.
So I know, I don't know if you all know, but the city is considering switching to a single provider trash service, and they created a temporary community committee to review the responses to proposal for the companies that are, interested in getting that job. And I will bring up what you just talked about to that committee as a potential option to consider, because there's a lot of back and forth right now between what the RFP that was created by citizen involvement requested and then what the potential provider responses were. And I think there's going to be some more negotiation there, and that might be something worth considering, especially knowing that people are having trouble paying for a competitive market right now, where I know that it's being offered as little as $16 a month on that waste services deal. And if it goes to the city, it's potentially going to be better service and possibly even a little more expensive. So I wonder if they could potentially include an option for people to take their trash somewhere. Thanks for sharing that.
Dave?
I'm very familiar with trash. To let you know, there are not many public dump sites that are currently available to the public. Since 9/11, just so you all know, for security reasons, a lot of trash facilities have closed their operations to personally receive trash. I'm aware of a couple of facilities, one outside of Aurora, one that's outside of the Castle Rock area, and then one that's just outside of Golden off Highway 93. So they are not convenient to get to, just so you know, and they are very expensive for one-time dumping. This is based off of my personal experience and what I've seen within the community. What we're seeing is people that are not paying for the trash is winding up somewhere else. So maybe not a preferred proper location, but maybe in someone else's dumpster, or we're seeing a very large increase of illegal dumpings in alleyways and behind people's houses, more so than we've ever seen.
I know that smaller communities, and I'm thinking Minnesota, We do that. Instead of having a trash service, we actually go to the dump every couple of days, and that's how we deal with our trash up there. So I think that's a neat option, and if we can get that included in the single service provider, I think that would be a huge benefit to those that can't afford the regular service. Did anyone else have their hand raised that I missed? Colleen?
I just wanted to share an anecdotal thing. I've been in my house for 22 years, and every time I dig in the backyard, I end up hitting trash. And newspapers dated from 1950 and 1960, old Coke bottles, Wonder Bread wrappers. The stuff just doesn't die. And I'm afraid to plant anything in it, so I've had to go all to raised beds. But that's what happened. My house was built in 1944, so that may have some reason. But anyway, we're doing a lot of that here.
Monica?
I just wanted to say that I'm noticing that Cara has had her hand up. And also, it's really nice to just talk about the issues, and I'm really looking forward to getting the information out to the community. And I feel like we're already off to a great start. So thank you so much, and please just let me know any other topics of importance.
Cara? I did see Cara. I was just going through.
Oh, okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
Cara.
No worries. Hi, thanks. I just wanted to jump back to Sonia's comment on, she mentioned the hazardous waste. I'm on the Keeping Englewood Beautiful committee that actually hosts that event. It was going on this past weekend and then this upcoming Saturday. So I'm not sure there's much we can do in the way of that, but certainly can keep in mind for next year. Also, we do have like a leaf drop off coming up at the end of October. So I don't know if there's any way, that we can maybe put something out there. Keep Englewood Beautiful does try to, put that stuff out on the social media sites to get some notice about it. But if there's anything that, overlaps with this committee, happy to bring that to Keep Englewood Beautiful.
Great, thank you. Colleen?
Yeah, I know that recently, because I had a contractor over here and a handyman doing a lot of work, and he took stuff to the dump. And it wasn't very far because he was back within an hour. So, and he said there was a long line. Would it be helpful to anybody if I were able to find out places that were still taking it that weren't that far away and what they take?
Carson?
I'd be interested in the information, sure. And I would share it with the trash committee too.
Okay, I'll see what I can do to find out.
Monica, if we could add at least trash to the list of topics for 21, that might be another good topic for us to consider.
Depending on what's going to happen with this single hauler thing, we may want to wait until those decisions have been made, because that obviously, if we did a whole trash article now, it's totally different than what might be the case if this single provider thing goes through, just to keep in mind.
What's the time frame for that, do you think?
Well, there's a tentative timeline of potentially making a decision by the end of the year, but I have a feeling that that's going to be pushed, but we'll see.
So we're talking about ideas for 21, so it might be, an option for us, especially if we come up with alternatives to a trash service. So any other ideas or requests for topics to cover in 21? Otherwise, Monica, do you have what you need? And I do believe we did reach consensus on the article. I heard from everybody except for Colleen. Are you okay with that, Colleen?
I did say that it was, unless I was muted, I did say that I was in support of it. And actually, I had done some work based upon the city's website on code enforcement already. I shared that probably a year ago,
I
or at least
remember.
whenever Carson came on, I gave him a copy of it. And Chris Harga, not too long ago, called me and said, I'm ready for that information now. So what's going to happen, I don't know. I'll be happy to give it to him. I was authorized by the committee to do that, but he said he wasn't in a position to take it then. So I'll just go ahead and give it to him and see what he does with it.
All right. So are there any other comments, questions? Otherwise, okay, well, let's move forward. Thank you very much, Monica and the subcommittee. I'm really excited to see how we can help the citizens comply or become informed and then comply with. One of the things I have heard quite a bit of, and maybe this can be included in the article, is where do I find out information on code? It's not, I mean, you have to really know the website to know where to go, and it's not on the website. You know, there is some information on the website, but you have to like go to the code document, that service that we subscribe to, the city does. All right, so moving on to our next agenda item, number 7, new business. Are there any motions with regard to new business on our agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to our unfinished business, which in the first agenda item there is to finish our bylaws review. Since our last meeting, I updated the sections that we discussed at our last meeting with the edits. And what I'd like to do now is resume the review of the document where we left off. And let me see if I can't pull that over here. Sorry, I have my dog next to me. I forgot to feed her before the meeting started, and she is not happy. So what I'd like to do is, we had just finished discussing section 3 on compensation, and what I'd like to do is resume where we left off and move forward, if that's okay with everybody. All right, great. So the rest of, as I mentioned before, the committee members at the time went through the bylaws with the fine-tooth comb, and we incorporated all the comments into one document, and that's here. So I'm going to move forward through those sections that have no recommended edits, because there are no recommended edits, and unless anyone has some thoughts or ideas on those sections, I'm going to move forward. All right. So we'll start with alternate members. Carson, you had a comment.
Julie,
yes.
Julie, can I interrupt? I keep on muting Colleen as per your instructions that everybody stay muted. And
Okay.
she keeps on unmuting. So what are your instructions for that?
Well, I've asked all members to mute themselves until called on.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Carson, your question was, if we have only one member missing, do we allow the alternate to vote if at least one member is missing instead of the alternate? I'm not sure I understand your question.
The question's related. So how many members must be present for quorum for this committee?
We have 7 members. We have 7 positions, and a quorum would be majority, which would be 4.
Okay, so my question is, if we have 4 members present and an alternate, does the alternate get to vote?
I believe so. Yes, the alternate.
So that should be
has to-
that should just be more clear. So basically that, to me, that means that if all 7 members are present, then the alternate doesn't vote. But if anyone's missing, then the alternate gets to vote.
So the last sentence says when an alternate member serves in place of a regular member, they're counted as part of the quorum and they vote on all matters brought before the body where they're serving. Does that suffice?
It may be that I just didn't understand for sure.
Julie,
Yes,
that
Maureen?
is absolutely correct. The only time an alternate ever votes is if there is if you have the 7-member board, which hopefully you'll have shortly because they're going out for advertisement soon, and an alternate. If one of the 7 members is not in attendance, the alternate can vote. The alternate can be in attendance at the meeting with 7 members, but cannot vote, cannot make a motion. Only if they're replacing a regular member, that's it.
Yeah, now that I read it, I think I was just trying to clarify my understanding, because that actually changed on the Board of Adjustment and Appeals when I was on it. Originally, alternate members were not allowed to vote, and then we actually changed that as the board. Or no, I think we had to go through City Council for that, but that did change while I was on the board. So I was just curious exactly how that worked for this committee.
Great. Colleen?
Yeah, I think we don't need a separate thing on alternates. As far as their voting, that could go under voting, and as far as the quorum, that could go under quorum. But I think that the statement that a member is expected to always be present at meetings, knowledgeable about the topics before the body, and ready to discuss any matter brought before the body, that should go under attendance and eliminate alternate members altogether. I think it'd make a lot more sense and it would be a lot clearer.
Okay. I'd like to ask everyone to weigh in on that. Monica?
I like it under alternate. I like it the way it is because I think it's clear, and I think you shouldn't have to look in all those sections if you're an alternate member. It's really nice to look in the bylaws and say, I'm an alternate member. Oh, here's my responsibilities. Here's when I'm allowed to vote. That's my opinion.
Carson?
I agree with Member Johnson. I mean, I understand Member Dickerson's thoughts, but I think from an understanding perspective, having everything about, it's like the bylaws apply to everyone, and then there's this different thing about alternate members, and the only differences are all in one place. So to me, that's simple.
Cara?
Yeah, I just wanted to second Monica. I agree.
Okay. Sonia?
I second Monica because I feel like it's simple enough the way it is.
Okay. I also concur. My tenure on the committee began as an alternate member, and I do remember reading this to try and understand what my role was, and I found it very helpful to understand in everything to be in one place. Colleen, did you have your hand raised? Okay.
Yes, I'd still like that one statement because there's nothing in there about the members are supposed to be informed and attend every meeting. And I think it would have been easier if we just defined alternates as members, but on voting and quorum, that's the way. But at least take out that sentence because it's making the alternate more important and more responsible than the regular members. So I'd like to add, all members are expected to be always present at meetings, knowledgeable about the topics before the body, and ready to discuss any matter that comes before them.
Carson?
Nice. That's a good point, Member Dickerson. But I think it's important, and if we're gonna, but it should apply to everybody. So maybe that part should just go to all members somewhere else instead of specifically for alternate?
I suggested
Monica?
under attendance.
Monica?
I think that everything that's in that section is relevant and fine. And if you want to add that I mean, I think it's a foregone conclusion if you're a member of the committee that you would participate in the activities of the committee. So with that said, and in the interest of kind of, I mean, we could pick it apart for days and weeks, but I just think that it's clear enough and that it makes sense and that some things are just implied. If you're going to be on a committee, you will receive the materials and you're expected to attend, and it is covered in different sections. And this is the alternate section. I think we're overthinking it. That's my opinion.
Any other comments, Cara?
Yeah, no, I agree with Monica. I think it's getting just overcomplicated. And I agree with there's it's implied that if you're attending these meetings, your purpose is to be present here and understand what's going on and what's being discussed. So I agree with that.
Sonia, did you have an opinion?
No,
Okay.
No.
Colleen?
All right. Well, if we're going to leave it that way, then we need to add under members plus alternate.
I'm not following you. Where
Under membership,
okay.
we've already covered it, but it says A, Section 1, Membership A. The committee will be comprised of 7 members. We should say plus 1 alternate appointed by the City Council, who shall be citizens at large.
I want to go around the room and ask everyone if that's okay with them. Monica, does that make sense to you? You okay with that? I just,
Sorry, I was muted. I mean, I thought we had decided everything up until that point. We're moving forward. If everybody else wants to go back, we can, but I mean, I kind of like it as is. I don't think that we're undermining ourselves by just leaving it the way it is.
you guys, I've got a dog that's barking at me. She needs to go outside. I have to let her outside. I would like to take a 5-minute recess so that she doesn't interrupt us anymore. Are you all okay with that? Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Okay, thank you. 5 minutes, guys. We'll be right back. Thank you.
It looks like we lost Kara. Julie,
She might have just signed off.
okay. Oh, here she comes.
Looks like everyone's back. Let's go ahead and resume. So thank you for giving us the break, everybody. So where we left off was whether or not we add the phrase and or plus one alternate to the membership. And Monica had just weighed in that she felt like it was fine as is. I'd like to hear from the other committee members, please. Cara?
Hi, yeah. I also think it's fine as is and doesn't need to be changed. It says, you know, that the committee will be made up of 7 members. The whole purpose of the alternate is to fill in for somebody when they're unavailable so that there are 7 members. And I think I don't think we need to go back and change anything.
Carson?
I agree. I went through it over the break and I think it's fine as is too. I think it's clear enough.
Okay, Sonia?
I believe it's clear enough the way it is.
Okay, thank you all. Take that out. All right. So I'm going to resolve this, and that is good as is. How do I use? I'll do it later. Okay. The next section is on resignation. Again, there was no comments on that. However, I would like to bring this up. It says that the resignation takes effect upon acceptance by City Council. But in the case of Al, who just resigned, he was moving and his resignation was effective immediately because he's no longer here. So I guess, Maureen, my question is that a City Council? Okay, so we can't
Yes,
change
because
that.
you guys are all appointed by City Council. So City Council is the final authority on accepting resignations because that gives them the authority to go out and try to find a new member.
Got it. Okay. All right. Moving on, then we get into officers' elections, the meeting chair, rules of procedure, the right of the chair to vote, and the vice chair. And there were no comments on that page at all. Unless anyone has any comments on that, I'm going to move forward. And then we get into recording secretary, where we had a comment from Coene that the recording secretary would be an ex officio member appointed by the city manager. And I believe that's how it works right now. Coene? Oh, you're on mute. Yeah.
Okay. Shouldn't that be then removed from there and put in where we talked about liaisons and recording secretary?
Is that where?
Under members, under membership. So we could eliminate it because it's in B, or I guess it doesn't matter if it's redundant.
It is redundant, isn't it?
I would say it would be better to move it to that section.
Okay. Monica?
I think just it's when you look at a document and you can find the heading that you want and quickly find the information, even if it's redundant, as long as it's the same, I don't think it's that big of a deal. So either way, it's fine, but as long as the information's consistent, it just makes it easier to find.
Other committee members, Cara?
Yeah, I work in contracts like all day, every day, and it's just, it's one of those, it's annoying, but it's fine. And I agree with Monica when, you know, when there's a heading that you can easily search for and it's not buried under, you know, some other section, it's much easier to, you know, to find and locate, even though, yes, it might be redundant, but it definitely doesn't do any damage. So.
Okay. Carson? I'm asking you to weigh in.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with it as is. I don't think it needs to change, but I'm
Okay.
kind of erring on the side of it. I get it. When I look through, when I read through it, I made the comments that I made. I don't really have any more.
Okay. Sonia? You're muted. Sonia, you're muted. There you go.
I'm fine with it. I don't think it needs to be changed.
Okay, thank you. Colleen?
Yeah, I couldn't find my notes, and I did have some comments under officers. Section 3, rules of procedure. We've also got a rules of procedure in meetings, and I think that needs to be removed and moved to the meetings one so that it makes more sense.
I'm not sure I'm following you. So are you
Okay.
referring to?
Yeah, Article 3, Section 3 says rules of procedure. Article 4, Section 1 says rules of procedure. And I'm thinking that it would be better to take that section and move it to Article 4 and add it to that, rather than have two rules of procedure.
Are you talking about the recording secretary
No,
paragraph?
no, this is under officers. It says rules of procedure, Section 3, rules of procedure. And then in Article 4, it meetings, rules of procedure. There's slightly different. And I think they should belong together. I don't think we should have two topics that say rules of procedure.
What I'd like to do is finish the conversation on the recording secretary. And then.
Oh, I thought we were finished. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So the way it will read now is the recording secretary shall be an ex officio member appointed by the city manager to serve in that capacity.
No, that was all X'd out on my copy anyway. The recording secretary shall be appointed by the city manager.
Oh, got it. Okay. How about that? All right. I do not know what is going on with my dog. She's driving me. I have had house guests for 2 weeks and they all left yesterday, and now I don't have anyone to deal with her. Sorry about that. So, okay, Colleen, let me see. So you have Section 3, rules of procedure under officer. And then
Under Section 4, under Article 4, we also have rules of procedure. And I'm thinking the rules of procedure in Article 3, Section 3, should be combined with Section 1 rules of procedure.
I'm not sighing at you, Colleen. I'm sighing at my dog barking at me. Sorry. I don't know what to do for her. I got Cara. Cara, go ahead.
Hi, I was just gonna, Colleen, I see what you're saying, and I think that's fine if you just basically merge the two into the one section. I don't see any problem with that.
So yours, can you tell me again what the recommendation is?
Okay, it's to move Article 3, Section 3, the presiding officer shall decide all points of order and procedure unless overruled by a majority of the total membership of the committee. Move that statement to Article 4, Meetings, Section 1, Rules of Procedure.
Got it.
And of course, that will require, everything to slip. Section 3 will be right of chair to vote. Section 4, vice chair, that kind of thing.
Right, so question for the committee. If we say the presiding officer shall decide all points of order and procedure unless overruled, isn't that already stated in Bob's rules of order?
I think so.
I think we can just take it out. I would recommend we just take it out. If I can
That's
ask.
fine with me.
Okay, Monica, are you good with that? Carson?
Yeah, I was gonna say that is covered there. So
Yeah, cool. Okay, Sonia and Cara, if you could weigh in, please.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
I'm fine with it.
all right, wonderful, guys. We're gonna take that piece of it out. Well, actually, I'm gonna cross it out, so I don't. Okay. Okay, so now we are duties of the recording secretary. Oh, sorry, records custodian. The recording secretary, as assigned by the city manager per section 6 above, shall be the custodian. Is everyone okay with that? Colleen?
Yeah, it's actually in conflict with Article 7, which talks about the records. So we've got to decide which one to keep. Article 7 says records and reports. The record of all committee meetings and hearings shall be kept on file in the office of the city clerk in such a manner as to be available for public inspection during the regular office hours of the city. But my understanding is that they publish, and our recording secretary has been publishing to the document center all of our documents. And I think that's how they're handling it now. So we either get rid of both of them or we choose one of them.
Well, I was just looking at the Maureen. Sorry, I didn't see that.
The clerk is the official custodian of all records related to the city, and they are the custodians of the document center. So they are still keeping all records. I may upload a document, okay, but I actually don't post it to the document center. The clerk's office does. They are the custodian. They're the official custodian of all records of the city of Englewood. So you cannot change that. That is actually required by law. They have.
We can change Section 8 records custodian because it it's a duplicate, but a change.
Yeah, you should take me out. All I'm doing is taking the minutes and uploading them. I am not the custodian. The clerk's office is.
So I suggest we take that out then.
So your recommendation is that we remove this entire section?
Mm-hmm.
Because we've already covered it in section 7.
Article 7, yes.
Article 7. And I think it makes more sense to have it there than under officers, because up here it's under officers and that just doesn't make sense. Can I have everyone weigh in on that recommendation, please? So we're saying that we would remove this section on records custodian. It is currently under the officer heading and move it and eliminate it altogether because it's already covered under Article 7. Could I have everyone weigh in on that, please?
it's fine with me.
All right.
It's fine with me, and the section below it really hits the nail on the head with what Maureen does.
Yeah. Okay, Sonia or Cara?
Fine with me.
Yeah, it's fine with me as well. I just wanted to suggest, now that we're taking out section 3 and now section 8 of this Article 3, do you, rather than just removing like Section 3 and Section 8, do you want to just fill those with reserved? Because I don't know where the references pop up through the entire document. So typically, so the rest of the numbering doesn't get messed up. And you don't have to go through and update the entire numbering. So you would just fill it with reserved.
I'd agree with that.
So instead of removing Section 1 duties, you just change it to reserved and there's nothing there?
Yeah, so where it says like Section 8 records custodian, period, you would just replace records custodian with reserved in all capital letters, period, and then there's just no text. So that way the section is reserved. So if we ever want to fill it in with something later on, we can, and it won't disrupt the numbering for the entire document.
So this would be, sorry, let me undo that.
So Julie,
Yes,
this is what they do even in our code.
awesome.
You look at
So-
the municipal code, I believe it's Title 10 is reserved.
Okay, so we just change that to reserved like that? Is that what you're recommending, Cara?
Hold on, I can't see. Oh. Are you sharing?
No, yeah, I don't think you're sharing.
Oh my gosh, I've been thinking I was sharing this whole time, you guys. I'm really sorry.
I have it on my laptop, you're good.
Well, I was scrolling.
yes,
It would have made you sick.
Yes,
correct.
so
So-
that is, and then you would just delete that entire text. And then you
Awesome.
would do the same thing where we were removing, I think it was Section 3 as well. So just fill that with reserved and then delete the text.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
I want to go around and Monica, Carson, Colleen, we heard from you. Monica, are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that, and thank you, Cara, for bringing your expertise and making us more efficient. It's nice to be rolling through this document.
Sonia
Sounds great.
and Carson.
I'm good.
All right, moving forward. Sorry, now I'm really going to make you sick. Duties of the recording secretary. Someone had crossed out cause to be made necessary, inspections of premises, attend all meetings and hearings. Someone had said, recommend we take that out, but my question is, why would we take that out? Colleen?
Because it's part of the planning and zoning issue. We don't go investigate properties, but planning and zoning does. And a lot of the artifacts from planning and zoning were left in.
Okay, so we're talking about duties of the recording secretary, and somehow or another, inspections of premises was left in. Maureen?
But I think that attend all meetings and hearings should be kept in.
Got it. All right, I would like to.
I have
Colleen?
another point. It says the recording secretary shall be the administrative and clerical officer. I think that needs to be replaced with liaison because there's no way that the recording secretary can be an officer.
I agree with that, and I also think that it should say the recording secretary shall be the administrative staff of the committee.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right, I need to hear from the rest of the committee members on that suggestion where we change it to the administrative staff of the committee, and then we remove cause all necessary inspections of premises but retain attend all meetings and hearings.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened. And I think that was my fault because I don't know how to strike out things.
That's okay.
I have a couple of other comments about this too.
Okay, I want to make sure I remember all this. Okay, what next?
The second line the ends at submit reports on all official matters occurring between meetings. That would also be a planning and zoning thing because we don't have any official matters occurring between meetings. And I'm okay with keeping the minutes of the committee proceedings because that's an important role. But I think we need to add, prepare the draft agenda and draft minutes. And I was going to say publish the approved minutes, but I don't think we need to do that. But where it says, let's see, generally supervise, there's no supervision, so let's change supervision to perform. And I had a question about the secretary is authorized to designate an acting or assistant secretary. First, it should be recording secretary if we're going to leave it. But secondly, I think the chair should select a member to back up the temporary, hopefully, absence of our recording secretary, particularly if it's an emergency or something.
So you're recommending that instead of saying that the recording secretary, Maureen?
Well, that prohibits me from finding somebody to do the job for me. Now, I don't know if you want to take that on, Julie. Do you want to go find some other staff member to
No, I
take
do
the
not.
minutes? Right.
No, I don't.
So
No, that
if
wasn't-
you, well,
Hold
wait,
on,
I'm not
Colleen,
done
let her
talking
finish.
yet. So if you want to make it that the chair is responsible for finding a temporary replacement for the recording secretary in case they're out sick or there's an emergency or whatever, you would have to name someone on your board to take the minutes, because
Thank
there's
you.
no way you would find someone in staff to do it. So I have these are your bylaws. You can do whatever you want with them, but I think that would be a mistake to take out that I could go out and find somebody to fill in for me. I think that would be a mistake. And I also think that where it had said, and generally supervise all the clerical and technical work of the committee, I would take that whole sentence out. There's
Okay.
no reason for it to even be in there. Of course I'm going to do all of that. But if you want to leave it in, you can.
I didn't
I'd
know
like
we
to
did
correct
technical work.
something.
Hold on, I want to hear from the other committee members. Carson?
I, I guess I feel like why take this stuff out? The secretary shall submit reports on all official matters occurring between meetings. I mean, if the city council makes some change that could affect us, you know, it'd be nice to know that the secretary is going to let us know that. You know, generally, like, you know, keep the minutes. I mean, what's wrong with, I mean, that is what happens. I don't know. It just feels like we're nitpicking, and I think it was, you know, sure, change supervise to perform or whatever, but it's just describing the way we operate and what we can count on. And then I have one thing that that going into the details of all of this feels to me like it would be worth considering having in our bylaws is that, you know, the city staff has requested that we don't do like group emails. So we're not supposed to reply all. And what I would like to know is that when one of us does send something to the chair or the recording secretary, that's, you know, thoughts, concerns, feedback, etc., that it gets shared with the rest of the committee and that we can count on that. And I wonder if that's something you all would like to see in our bylaws.
Okay, Maureen, I'm calling on Maureen because Maureen has the knowledge of the procedures of the city, and I'd like to hear those before we have further conversations.
The reason that you've been asked not to reply all is because it's an open meeting violation if you do a reply all. Now, you can send out information to everybody as long as everybody knows that there's been no deliberation and you cannot respond to it. Well, what's been happening is, and this goes right back to what Carson just said, is the secretary shall submit reports on all official matters occurring between meetings. When I get something, let's say I get something from the clerk's office saying you need to send this out to all of your board members,
Right.
I automatically send it out to all the board members. So that's where that would come in. But my thinking is, as the recording secretary, I'm working for you guys as your administrative staff. So I'm not sure why everything has to be spelled out here. It just seems a little overkill to me. You know, I mean, if you want to list the duties of the recording secretary, okay. But I don't know that it's necessary. Basically, for your bylaws, I need to show up at every meeting. I need to take the minutes. I need to post the agenda. I need to post the approved minutes. That's basic, and send out information to you guys when necessary. And if I happen to be absent, find somebody to replace me. But the reply all thing is only because it's an open meeting law violation.
Carson?
Well, directly responding to that, I guess I've misunderstood that all along, because, you know, that was originally communicated to me as part when I was on a previous board, and I thought it applied not just to reply all, but to committee members sending something to everybody on the committee. But you're saying it's okay if I were to send an email to everybody, it's just nobody is supposed to reply all to me. If they want to reply to me, then they're supposed to send their response to the chair, who then distributes to everyone else.
Carson, I'm telling you that it's not against the law. It doesn't violate open meeting law, but that doesn't mean that that's not what the procedure that the city wants is that everything goes through the chairperson. So if you want something distributed to all of the members, you should send it to the chairperson, and she can either direct me to send it out or she can send it out.
Sure, and that's the way I've been operating.
Right, and that's how the city wants everybody to operate. But that's a procedure, okay? That's a policy that the city has. When you reply all to an email that somebody sends out, like, hey, what do you guys think about, you know, we're in charge of painting the schoolhouse. I think we should all paint it red. What do you guys all think? That's a violation of open meeting law, and especially if everybody responds, because then you're deliberating, and that's what causes the problem. So
Okay,
that's why the city has put in the policy and the procedure to either send it to the recording secretary for distribution or the chairperson.
Is the policy like the city standard policy that everything that's sent to the chair or secretary in that situation is automatically distributed to the rest of the committee?
That's actually up to the chair, or if you request it as a board member. I have no say-so in it as a recording secretary, but if the chair says, Maureen, send this out to everybody, then I send it out to everybody.
Chair Bowden, how do you operate on that? Do you always send everything out to all of us if one of us sends you something?
If it relates to the business of the committee, yes. An example of that would be when Dave Lee came and talked to us about EAB, and then afterwards he shared a lot of documents with us, and said, and the committee said, please share that with us. So I sent it to all the committee members, and I always put, or I try to remember to always put in there, if you have any questions, please contact me directly. Don't reply all.
Right.
When really the most common thing that I send out is, or have been sending out, is a review and approval for our communications articles. And I believe I do put in there, reply only to me, and don't reply all. So I try to remember that, because it's easy to forget when you're, you know, surfing through your emails.
Thank you. And that's what
oh, sorry, Carson, go ahead.
I was just going to finish on that, but I was just saying thank you. And that was my understanding and observation of how you've been doing it. And I've really appreciated that, because I feel like the way that you've chaired has been very transparent for all of us. And I think that's really important.
Thank you. Colleen?
Yeah, just that's always been our policy, that whatever any of us send to every member of the committee, we're supposed to say, reply only to the sender and not reply all. And that's been a policy for a couple of years. But I wanted to correct, because I didn't finish my statement and I lost track of what I was doing. I didn't intend for it to be a permanent thing. It's just that in an emergency situation, I thought that say you weren't able to show up one day and we couldn't find anybody, it was a last minute thing and you hadn't been able to find anybody, that the chair could appoint a member to do the recording of the minutes at that, just for that one meeting. And maybe if it's going to be a long-term thing, or, you know, more than a couple of days, help prepare the draft minutes for you. This has been done before by the committee. I personally ended up being the recording secretary for 4 meetings before you were here. And so I just thought, it was an option that we could have, that the presiding officer, and we might need to back up anyway, have a recording backup, because we've had some problems while we're having Zoom meetings. We've had some problems with the committee before we had to go to these teleconference things, the recording failing on one end or the other. So it was always nice to have a backup.
Maureen,
So
you had your hand.
Yeah.
Take on anything. I just was, for an emergency situation, when you haven't had a chance. And I was going to say, and only perform those limited tasks until the recording secretary returns or a new recording secretary is appointed.
Maureen, you had your hand raised.
I mean, I'm not sure that you actually need to put that in there, Julie, because you could appoint any member of this advisory committee to any function that you want them to do.
Okay.
That is your, purview as being the chairperson. So, I mean, if I couldn't show up and it was a last minute thing, I don't know that it has to be in the bylaws. I think that you have that authority to appoint someone. But if you want it spelled out in the bylaws, as Colleen has said, I think that's perfectly fine as well.
Carson?
I was going to say that because meetings have been technical stuff has gone on that has caused meetings to not be completely recorded, I've started recording the ones that I participate in, and that actually paid off for the trash committee meeting that occurred a couple weeks ago. The city staff had a technical issue and missed the first hour of the recording, and I provided a complete recording, and that's being uploaded to the city's YouTube tonight, actually.
Just in response to the question on whether or not I wanted to have the ability to appoint a recording secretary, I don't want that responsibility. It's hard enough to keep up with all my other responsibilities. And I believe the way it's worded covers it, because it says that you can designate an acting or assistant secretary, including an ex officio member, which am I reading that right? That's one of us? So I think, Maureen, you're
not ex officio members, but it could be Dave Lewis, because he is an ex officio member. So I could call Dave and say, Dave, I'm sick. I can't do the recording. Can you do it? But you as chair can also do that without any authorization at all.
okay,
I mean,
well,
you could designate any one of your members to record the meetings as well as me.
So here's a suggestion is because you have the staff and you will know whether or not you can attend the meeting. I would much rather have you source a replacement, and if you want to ask me, or we have a conversation, that's fine with me, but I would prefer for you to make that call, because you have the information. And generally, we're recorded anyway. I don't know that the recording I'm not understating your responsibilities, but we do have a recording, and there's a low risk here. aside from the comment that Carson had, I would like to hear from Monica, Sonia, and Cara, please. Cara? Oh, I thought you raised your hand.
Oh, sorry, I did. No, I was just gonna, I don't think that the change is required or necessary. You know, all of the information that Maureen has provided, and I just don't think it's necessary. I think it's fine the way it is.
Okay. Monica, Sonia?
Just going off of what Carson started with about the secretary shall submit reports, and Maureen saying, yes, I actually do that in between meetings, and Coleen's made a couple of nice ads in there. Really, all we're doing is describing what the recording secretary does, and everything that's in there is fine, like just as it is right now with the ad with Coleen's the highlighted yellow and what's crossed out. I would leave in the reports on official matters in between. It doesn't seem like it seems like that applies. I don't know. But generally, I think it's fine.
Thank you. Sonia?
After listening to Maureen, I think that it's generally fine as well.
Okay.
Because she really told us it really wasn't necessary. So I don't think we need to overcomplicate anything.
Okay. And Carson, I wanted to follow up. There were 2 sentences that actually were carryovers from another committee that should have been deleted, which is why we're recommending it. The first one, the secretary shall submit reports on all official matters. That was related to another committee, as is cause to be made necessary inspections, which is why we wanted to remove that. And then this one was I can't remember. Did we decide that we wanted to keep that in? I don't remember. Oh, we don't have technical work.
Yeah, Julie, I take it out.
You
It does
would?
not need to be in there.
Okay. Colleen, you raised your hand?
Yeah, even Maureen said that we should change officer to liaison in the first sentence. And if we're going to keep in the secretary shall be and is hereby authorized to, it should be the recording secretary. And she also got the idea that we should either take out the whole sentence and generally supervise all the clerical and technical work, or change supervise to perform.
Right. So if I may read what this will now read out loud what this says. The recording secretary shall be the administrative staff of the committee and subject to these bylaws and direction of the committee, conduct all official correspondence, send all notices required by these rules and orders of the committee, attend all meetings and hearings. I just couldn't figure out how to strike that out. Keep the minutes of the committee's proceedings, perform all the, period. And then the recording secretary shall be and hereby authorized to designate an acting or assisting secretary. I would like to hear approval for that.
Approve.
Monica? Carson?
Approve.
Cara? Great. Sonia?
Approve.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Moving forward. Again, a lot of these are set by the City Council in accordance with Bob's Rule of Order. And then for such meetings, we have at least 3 days notice given to each committee member. That's pretty standard. Notice procedures. I think you're recommending that, Carson, that all members of the committee shall be notified either during a scheduled meeting or by telephone and electronic mail. So you're saying it could just be or. You don't have to do a telephone. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it says, I crossed out telephone and.
Okay. Colleen?
Yeah, back up to under regular meetings, said at least 3-day notice, but must be given to each committee member, including liaisons, because there's no ex officio language. So just liaisons will do. And I wanted,
Maureen?
We don't publish in an official newspaper.
Where are you looking at?
Under
Oh.
notice procedures.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
yeah, that's another leftover from planning and zoning.
Yeah, and from the city, I think, the council.
But I'd like an addition to the
Hold
notice.
on, let me finish this. So, we don't do a notice in the newspaper. However, we do post it online, but I think that's already covered in your responsibilities.
Yeah.
Colleen?
Yeah, I think we need to add all packets, including agendas, attachments, and draft minutes, shall be delivered to the members at least 3 full working days by the recording secretary via email. And I wanted to know if we needed to add the ability to pick up a printed packet, because I know they do that and I'm having trouble printing, a lot of trouble, and I don't want to spend the money. And I know right now it's difficult, but can we have an addition that we have a way to pick up a printed packet? Because I haven't been getting any notices or packets or anything.
I don't email anything to anybody. Okay, I upload it onto the city's agenda website, the meetings portal, and then when I publish it and I put in there a notice. It sends out a notice to everybody. So are none of you getting that notice with the publication and the packets?
I've gotten no notice.
Has anybody else?
Me.
No notice. So when I say publish and send out a notice, it's not coming to you guys. So
Usually I get it.
You're going onto the website and getting this information?
Yes.
Okay. I did not know that because I actually hit a button that says it's supposed to notify everybody that this is available and you can have it. I'm more than happy to email this out to everybody. I don't have a problem with that. They don't really want you to have paper copies. So, I mean, if it's an emergency, I'm sure it would be fine, but I don't regularly want to print out a copy of the whole packet, which is, a lot of the time 70 to 80 pages long. So if one of you calls me and says, I got your email, I can't open the packet, blah, 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 I need a paper copy, fine, I'll print it out and leave it someplace for you. But I don't want that to be a normal, everyday procedure. So how many of you want me to email you I can email it, that's not a problem. Does everybody want it emailed? Because you can still get it off the meeting portal. And I think that's actually what everybody's wanting you to do, but I can email it. That's not a huge deal.
I was just going to say, I usually get the notice that you trigger, and then it's a link to the meeting portal where I can get the packet. But yeah, this time I don't think I did, and I just went straight there.
Yep. Dave, did you?
I just want to caution you also about putting timeframes on when you post things, because it's only required to be 24 hours.
Huh?
Dave just said that the required time frame is 24 hours notice, not 3 days.
It's 3 days according to always.
No, Colorado, if you go to the Colorado Open Meetings Law Act, which it references here in the last sentence, it tells you 24 hours. I like to get it out earlier. That's my whole deal. So I normally have it out by Friday before your guys' meeting.
When is the agenda required to be posted online?
24 hours before your meeting.
So we,
24.
okay, interesting. I thought, for some reason, I thought we had like a week's notice. That was just
No,
you training
I
me.
normally get it onto the website on Friday before your meeting, but I'm not required to have it there until Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Okay. So the recommendation was to take, notice shall be given in the official newspaper. I wanted to say, can we take out this sentence too? Leaving a message on a telephone answering machine is compliance with telephonic notification. Do we need that? I don't think so either. All right, we're gonna cross that out. So I'd like to hear from everyone on those changes. So we're removing the telephone piece of it. There was conversation about having a 3-day notice on, or 3-day advance notice on the agenda and agenda packet, but that is in conflict with the 24-hour notice required by law. Can I hear everybody weigh in on that? Are you guys okay with the 24-hour, Monica?
I think if we want to go above and beyond 24 hours, that's great, but we should stick with what the rule is, which is 24 hours. Taking out the telephone stuff sounds fine to me. And yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay. Carson, well, those were your changes, so I'm assuming you're good with that, Carson. Sonia?
Yes, I agree with Monica. It would be nice to have more than 24 hours, but it's the rule, so I agree with her in that one. Yes.
Cara? Cool. And I just wanted to weigh in before I call on you, Colleen. I'm in agreement, and I think both Maureen and I attempt to get the minutes and agenda out a week before. That's always been my target, and I feel guilty if I miss it by a day. So, because I understand the benefit of having time to review the materials. Colleen?
Yeah. I think that it's okay if you want to do it that way, but I really need the extra time. And and so far it's been good, except that I wasn't getting notices. But I wanted to ask about this final sentence. Notice of any meeting shall be carried out by the recording secretary to the committee. I think it could stop there, because in other places we talk about 3 days and that you doing notices, but here it says upon written request by the chair, or written request of a majority of the committee, and in conformance with the Colorado Open Meetings Act. I don't think any of that's necessary if you're already agreeing to do this notice within 24 hours. We wouldn't have to request it from you.
Maureen?
Yeah, that's referencing an emergency meeting.
Okay, so we should put in the case of an emergency meeting.
But you don't want to actually call it an emergency meeting, because you guys might hear something and, you know, and you want to hear about it and you want people to come forward with information. So it's not really an emergency meeting, but you want to hear it as quick as possible. So you can call a meeting, and it should be via email, really, written record. You can call a meeting with a 24-hour notice. So I would leave that in, because that just gives you backup in case you guys want to have that quick meeting, you know, on the fly. And
How
the
about
other thing I was going to say is, I'll guarantee all of you, you will never receive your packet in 24 hours before the meeting. I will always have it to you at least 3 days before. So,
And Maureen,
you know,
Maureen
you don't need to worry about that.
And Maureen controls me, so she's true to her word. Monica?
With that being said, I just glanced down at the next section, which is the length of meetings, and we commenced 2 hours ago. And although I'd love to get through this, I think, part of what our committee needs to work on is moving through things and time management. And I think the work we've done on this section is excellent. And I'm wondering, I just wanted to bring up that we're going over.
Colleen, I'm gonna take one or two more comments, and then we're gonna conclude the meeting for this evening because we're already over our 2-hour time
Fine
limit.
with me.
Okay, all right. So what I'm hearing is everyone's good with this, removing the telephonic portion of it, and then we'll resume for our next meeting and hopefully get through the rest of this document. The next meeting, the third Wednesday would be, what's that? The 21st? Okay, Dave.
I apologize. I'm not going to be able to attend the meeting on the 21st.
Okay.
I do have a schedule conflict.
Would you be able to send someone in your stead?
Probably not. I would like to see, is it possible, and I don't want to keep moving meetings, but I know you've done that in the past. I've had a long scheduled vacation on the books and I'd really like to attend, especially because it's coming to the end of our seasonal person. I would like to recommend maybe the 28th if that's possible.
Does anyone have a problem with us meeting on the 28th of October instead of the 21st so that Dave can attend? If you have a problem, please raise your hand. Otherwise, let's go ahead and meet on the 28th. And then I'm going to call this meeting to a close. Thank you all very much for your participation and your ideas. Appreciate it. Have a great evening.
Member Johnson just raised her hand.
Oh, she was waving
Oh,
bye.
waving. Bye all.
Okay, thanks,
Great work,
guys.
y'all. See you later.
Okay, bye-bye.